happens when Fire Emblem Three Houses is your best-selling game of all time. You, of course, need to make a sequel, even though the stories of Dimitri and Edelgard are stitched up pretty tightly. I probably would have focused on some of the areas of the universe which literally only have dictionary entries, or maybe I would have developed the main conflict of the main game that can actually show Rhea as more of a villain since that's shittily developed. Or maybe I would have had a game focusing solely on the part of Claw's journey that was left unfinished. Well, we all know none of that happened. We didn't get a sequel that actually expanded on the universe in an interesting way and explored some of the loose ends of Three Houses. We get a game that utterly retreads the same bullshit from Three Houses that was already done, because yes, we had to have another game about Dimitri and Edelgard when their narrative is finished. We know the extent of Edelgard's ambition and Dimitri's motives and their backstories. What else is there left to say about Step Bro and Step Sis over there? Fire Emblem Three Hopes always disappointed me as a concept, but it did not anger me until I saw this support. Literally, I can't listen to 30 seconds of it without wanting to blow my brains out. The support demonstrates the total lack of intelligence, research, and rationality that has been plaguing the writer's room at Intelligent Systems for well over a decade. It shows how these people have no interest in history and politics, yet they want to make games with complex geopolitics and social themes. It's utter negligence. I know this might be a weird video to make focusing on one support. How can it be such maggot-ridden horse shit that it can constitute a whole section on why Fodlan world building is actually some of the worst the series has to offer? Well, I guarantee you it will serve as a perfect eye-opener of how you've been tricked by annoying Twitter discourse into thinking the world had even an ounce of thought put into it, and that the writers know anything about socialism or whatever people think Edelgard is. Let's talk about why this is the worst of the worst Three Houses supports have to offer.
Number 1.
To summarize the support, Dimitri and Claude are explaining why they are in conflict. Seeing as they had no reason to do that in the first game, Dimitri's psychosis is used as a plot device in order to have a battle of grounder to parallel the first training match. Let's see what the writers cook up this time.
Dimitri, we need to talk. I'm just gonna come out and say it. After the war, I'm going to abolish the Central Church and depose the Archbishop. The people of Fodlan have been shackled by this decrepit system for too long, and I'm ending it.
You're going to do away with the church?
That's right. Think about it. Who steals your freedom and gives you an endless list of duties and obligations simply because you have a crest? Who forces you and your friends into a bunch of unwanted marriages and positions of power? The church even forbids any official contact with outside regions. Not exactly great for Fargus, right? Being as close to Strang and Albinia as you are.
Oh, I'm out of here. Yo, I'm out of here. No way.
I will save how Three Houses does not understand religion for another day. But basically, I never really liked how they equate the Church of Saros to maybe the Catholic Church of Europe, which is actually oppressive. If you wanted Rhea to be that kind of figure, maybe don't let the fucking leaders of each nation act independently against her whims. If you wanted Rhea to be like the Catholic Church, make her punish disobedience with excommunication, dangling salvation over their heads. Rhea doesn't force people into political marriages or mating presses. These things would happen even if she took a worm slayer to the face tomorrow. Rhea says she doesn't want people to make contact outside of Fodlan, yet Edelgard is still a colonizer and has a prisoner of war at Garrett Mach. Like, wow. I'll go more in depth about this in another video, but yeah, just know this is fucking stupid. But surely Dimitri will have no problems with this, right? How could this possibly be a source of conflict for them? I mean, since when does Dimitri really care about the church? He more focused on avenging his family and friends than protecting Rhea, right?
But to be clear, your quarrel is with the church, yes? Not with Fargus itself?
Exactly. We have nothing to gain by fighting you. And really, our enemy isn't the actual church so much as the people at the top who make all the decisions.
I understand where you're coming from, Claude. And on a personal level, I actually agree with you.
But as a king, you're opposed.
Yes, for
You got me.
3 reasons. First, Abolishing the church would deny the king's right to rule Fargus. Without one, the people will descend into chaos and war. Would you be able to take responsibility for such a thing once it came to pass?
Cope!
That's not how anything works. Dimitri is referring to the divine right of kings. This isn't something three houses made up. It's very common that rulers will base their authority in religion so that it could not be easily challenged. It's like, all my spermites will rule this land because the Holy Jehovah said so. Source, the totally not corrupt clergy, and God told me himself. This Wikipedia entry is pretty helpful for getting familiarized with the concept, but what the writers fail to realize is that a king's authority can be based on things other than the divine. A ruler's authority can be based on having control of the enforcement arm of the country, which is typically how dictators take over countries since they have sufficient military power and can thus overthrow the government. It can also be based on having the most money and resources since, well, you can just pay people and give them opportunities until they suddenly don't object to your rule anymore. My last example is that a ruler's authority can also be subject to the whims of the common people. If they like you, they probably will not dethrone you. These are just a few examples that I could come up with. Dimitri makes it seem as if there was no central church, he would just step down and leave Fargus without a king. That would be negligence on his part, not Claude's, for disposing of the church. I mean, how else would Fargus be without a king in this event? Dimitri would certainly not be overthrown because, well, he's Dimitri, a hulking superhuman who can crush skulls with his bare hands, and is said to have fought thousands of men at once, being a one-man army, thanks to his bladed crest. And yes, it's because of his crest, he says so in his supports, and Dimitri's crest effect perfectly mirrors his super strength. So it would be safe to say that Dimitri's entire bloodline would have such protections as well. Yes, I understand the tragedy of Gusker happened, but that is outside influence from the Agarthans. So yes, literally earth-dwelling evil scientists with nukes and fucking kaijus can threaten Dimitri's rule. But not anyone in the kingdom itself. So it's kind of a moot point, because I'm talking about the people overthrowing Dimitri, because that's what Dimitri is talking about. An additional reason Dimitri would not be overthrown is because, well, he has the enforcement arm. In addition to his own strength, he is best friends with all of the Margraves and Fargus, plenty of which would literally die for him and have access to the relics. The relics are super important since Margrave Gautier is quoted by Sylvain as saying, only the Lance of Ruin is the reason why they can repel strength. So the relics are a highly important part of the enforcement arm, and without them, or the ability to disable them, nobody can stand up to Dimitri's authority in any meaningful way. It is also absurdly unlikely that people will want to dethrone Dimitri since he is well liked, and even more unlikely the elites will want to dethrone Dimitri since they are his bosom buddies. So yeah, the only way Dimitri would stop ruling is if he stepped down and basically purged his own nation into civil war and conflict. Which is kind of out of character for him, right? Yeah, Three Hopes literally changed Dimitri's character and gave him fucking brain cancer so this plot could make any sense.
Second, recklessly discarding the church will only incite discord among the clergy and its supporters.
Second thing, okay Dima, who fucking cares? Like what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any sense. If you think the church is bad, then it should go. Who cares if it will cause conflict? This reason just makes Dimitri out to be a bitch coward. Again, entire personality change for the plot to work.
And finally, a revolution of this nature will not only mean casualties among the common folk, but will endanger your own life as well.
Someone shoot me.
I don't know what Dimitri means by this since Claude did this very thing in the story, and it has happened plenty of times in our own history that religious authority is questioned, and subsequently the nobility detaches themselves from it. Claude says that he simply made everyone switch the denomination, and there appears to be no unrest in Leicester. And in our own history, the conflict did not come from common people who could not fucking read. They were much too concerned with paying taxes and surviving. The conflict came from other nobles and kings being like, well, I want this nomination, fuck you, and locking war on them. If none of the elites in Fargus are fucking zealots for Rhea's ass, this will not occur.
To be honest,
I'm jealous of how
you're
you
not
aren't an
burdened
absolute
with the
tool,
same
Claude.
restrictions.
In the world I'm trying to create, you wouldn't be burdened by them either. You could even... No, forget that. I'm serious about what I said, though.
Here
I
it
really do
comes.
admire how you want to
The
save
worst
everything.
line in this support.
Honestly, if you weren't a king, I think we could have been friends.
God! Okay, I will say what he meant. He means if his authority was not granted to him by religion, they could have been friends.
Like, this line is so frustrating because Claude is basically a king. I know what it means, but it did not make me any less angry hearing it for the first time.
Maybe this line would have worked better if he said King of Fargus. I don't know, but do you see what I mean now? This is what I mean by the utter incompetence and negligence at intelligence systems. Read a fucking book, pick up a dictionary, and then come back to me about how evil Rhea is and how I'm supposed to feel bad for rich people who knowingly perpetuate systems which supposedly hurt them and their citizens. But that's for another video. Honestly, I have a deep fascination with world building and history, so Fodlan was super disappointing because the conversations like this, which completely show the ass of the writing staff. They didn't do any research, but expect you to care about some shite commentary, which doesn't even apply to the world of Fodlan, because of the inherent differences with the world they created. It's an unfitting allegory. An example being maybe possibly the church being dissolved would challenge the king's authority. In our reality, but such a thing would never happen to Dimitri. There is quite literally a 0 chance of the people of Fargus undermining his authority, since he has way too much military power and being relatively well liked by the citizenry. I want to deeply explore how Three Houses fails as social commentary through its lack of understanding of history and political theory. Just to get the opinion out there, I don't really see it much. I see this world building endlessly jerked off, when I personally think it's some of the worst in the series. Having name, locations, and titles doesn't mean shit when we don't understand anything about them, and the writers don't either. I'm sorry, but I personally don't want a lecture of political theory from people who can't even tell me that much.
Subscribe, man!
If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, join my Discord, start beefing me in the comments section about how I don't know what I'm talking about, and this makes so much sense. It fuels me. Until next time, guys. Laters.